Hello and welcome to Real Hi-Fi Help. Let's talk about low ohm headphones, how they are destroying our sound. So sometimes I just think about this, like, why the hell am I not working for an audio company? I mean, the amount of stuff that I know about sound from just having done a lot of experiments. It's a weird thing when you think about it, because I'm not an engineer, and in order to work for an audio company, you have to kind of be an engineer, which is like the opposite of almost the opposite of making good sound. I mean, you're gonna make functional sound. It's gonna be technically good, but still, I just find that funny because I think that the whole world is at, especially in the hi-fi world, is at a place where we're actually hurting our sound because we have too many engineers thinking in the standard engineering way. So these are the experiences that I've had that make sound a hell of a lot better. And let me just share that with you guys. So I've experienced that when you have a low ohm headphone, that we get versatility and compatibility. Suddenly just everything starts working on basically everything. You can get all amps, you can get all headphones to work with each other. We can use it on our phones and probably iPads if they had like a jack. I'm not sure if iPads even have a jack anymore. But I just think that it's the wrong approach. I think that we're actually doing this backwards, because we're trying to ensure that everybody can do anything with any device, and we should actually do the opposite approach. We should try and lock ourselves into a certain path doing a certain thing, because when we can do that, like a lot better. We can go a lot deeper into the sound. So I don't like low ohm headphones. I just find them too fast. They have too flat a response, and they just sound too unrealistically good. And let me just give you an analogy of what I mean by that. Have you ever heard a small set of speakers with like a 5-inch mid-range and something like a 7-inch bass, and then try to listen to that, and then take that same speaker and then put it in a bigger room? What you'll notice is that the sound is fast, it's correct, it's polite, but it just doesn't have that grunt, that weight, that bite, that bandwidth, proper depth in soundstage. I feel like I could remember about 10 years ago, I bought a really old biodynamic, I think it was 990 DT headphone or something like that. And it was like, I don't know, 20, 25 years old. And it was like really dusty and fragile. And it's not like the newer headphones. I mean, this was really heavy to drive. I think it was like 600 or more than that ohms. And it had a cable upgrade and a plug upgrade. And it just sounded so much better than the newer standard of biodynamic headphones. And I realized why this was, because I later got to own the DT 990 headphones, and then I went from the 32 to the, I don't know, 100 and something ohm headphone, 250, and then 600 ohm headphone in the end, I think it was. And I noticed that once you got up in ohms, what happened was the whole soundstage became a lot more believable, a lot more naturally deep and heavy. So it felt like you were sitting in front of a proper set of speakers, and it surprises me that, looking at the trend of what's going on, which is almost in the new world, fantastically wrong, but always makes more money somehow. It's the opposite way. Where all the big manufacturers are reducing their ohms on their headphones, and everybody's going like, yeah, now we can listen to high-end headphones on our phones and our portable devices and stuff like that. But no, we're getting away from the really good deep audiophile sound, and it's becoming very plasticky and flat, ending, like I always say, ending at the wall instead of going like deep and with a lot of weight. And we're losing this sense of bandwidth. So I would actually go in the opposite direction, and I would say, no, let's stop doing that. Let's all get headphone amplifiers that are triode tube amps that are either 300B or 200A3. This is like the more musical warm type of sound. This is more of a, I think, more naked, raw, correct type of sound. And then we need thicker and better headphone cables and better plugs, because the standard that we have nowadays with a lot of the more expensive headphones are just not good enough. They're just not good enough, Grado did a great job on making thick cables. That's one of the reasons why they're not nearly as bad as they normally would be, considering that they have, I think it's 32 ohm headphones. If Grado could just make headphones that were 600 to let's say 300 to 1200 ohms, and they would be able to get all of their users to what was it now? Kind of lost my train of thought there. But get all of their users to use a proper headphone, not all of these transistor headphone amplifiers for like 500 or $1,000, but like a proper headphone amplifier, tube triode headphone amplifier. We just get this like huge amount of increase in depth and weight and bandwidth, and and nobody would really want to have a speaker system anymore. We would all be having headphone systems because it's just a lot more cheaper. That's kind of my idyllic way of looking at it. So I'm a bit baffled that the whole industry hasn't gotten this yet. I think it's just gonna take a long time really for the companies to really understand that higher ohm headphones give more resistance. And yes, it's going to make sound more bloated and distorted and heavy to drive and stuff like that. But that's the surface problem. That's the surface problem. It don't look at that as if that's the main problem. You just create a standard of triode tube amps which make things just a lot more natural, and what do you call it? It has like a sense of true weight, true depth, true bandwidth, and the music just settles more. I think what I'm hearing in all of these newer headphones, especially a lot of the more pricey ones, is that the sound is just becoming ridiculously detailed and fast, but it's still getting a bit tough getting deep into the recordings because things are just so flat in response and correct sounding, and everything looks good on the engineer's graphs, and they're pleasing everybody with making it run on the lowest end amps and the highest end ones. But I think we have to kind of go a bit back in time and realize that what we did around the 1980s with some of these headphones, when we started getting into these around 600 ohm headphones, it actually did a thing for our music, making it more believable, more natural, more rested in itself in a good way. And I don't think that we have to necessarily go into this new membrane technology where we get this artificially bright type of sound, and we have to use what's it called, a ribbon, these ribbon technology type of things. I don't think we have to do that really. I think we could still function with the standard traditional way of making headphones like we did in the 1980s. Just make them, bigger, heavier to drive, and then give us some proper amps that are triode tube amps, not transistor amps, because a lot of these transistor amps, they just create too much of a plasticky flat type of sound that has too much leading edge, and it's almost always a two-dimensional sound. So, and especially instruments on transistor gear, it just generally doesn't really do the job. So people anyway end up not listening to the really good music. They just end up listening to all the new beat music out there, because that sounds a lot better on the usual transistor gear with the usual headphone technology. So it's kind of messed up how the whole industry works. If we go back in time, we'll actually get a better sound, because we just haven't gotten there yet with the current headphone technology. I mean, we could get some awesome sound with the current technology that we have, but I still think it's not quite there yet. It's pretty close. I think that Audis and Abyss headphones and Focal, that they are like really close, really close at that sound, but not quite there yet. I think we have to go back in time to the old membrane technology and try and use that bigger units, bigger headphones. Yeah, sadly make them heavier in order to get some proper stuff into the headphones. And then we should try, I think we should try and make headphones like the Sennheiser HD800, not sound wise, but shape wise, where we have headphones that don't put pressure on the ear or any of the acupuncture points around the ear, but it's really a headphone. You put it on your head, so it feels like you have these giant speakers on your head. And they were able to make a really light headphone, and that's difficult. That's really difficult. I would prefer that shape, that amount of pressure that comes from the HD 800s, and then combined with like the Odis way of making a sound, which is a lot like Audio Note, very similar, not quite at that level yet. And I would increase the ohms. I would increase the the size of the drivers, and just get rid of that clamping, extreme clamping pressure that there is on the head, and the extreme weight of the Audis headphones, because they are extremely heavy. And that, sadly, I think it's necessary, getting a really good, solid, real sound. And then I would just say, get a proper cable, not these standard cables, but like a really thick, proper copper cable, something like that, with a proper plug, like a Nutrix plug at least, or even better, like Futek or E8 plug. But it would be cool if AudioNote could start making headphone plugs, AudioNote silver headphone plugs that are on the level of the speaker terminals. I mean, just think about it. Think about it for a second. Why isn't the headphone industry following the standard of AudioNote? I just can't believe it. We have the best speaker terminals in the world from AudioNote, with their Ongaku as a clear number one, and then we have the AudioNote Maishu as clear number two, and then the Oto, and then there's like a huge distance from that to I can't even remember what the next one is, if it's VBT Silver or what it is, but I feel that this is like a huge neglected part of the high-end industry. If we could just get like AudioNote into this business and like show the big players how it's done, if we could start getting parts from AudioNote into the headphones, I have no idea what type of parts there are in a headphone, but get like the really good stuff from audio. I think that we would create a sound that is so good that we wouldn't even consider having a set of speakers. I think it's doable. This is like my vision of how it would be. I think a lot of people that don't really have a room for playing in, I think that they would really enjoy that. I came really close to having this sound. I heard this just with a modified HD 800 Mark 1, Sennheiser HD 800 Mark 1, and that's a very analytical headphone. And I made that run on AudioNote silver cable, Furutech plugs. I did a modification on it, Super DuPont modification to flatten out the response on it, to make it more natural. And that on just a used Maisho AudioNote Maisho amplifier turned into a headphone amplifier that just sounded ridiculously good, and that was just like an old standard Maisho used amplifier. Just imagine if you had like a dedicated AudioNote headphone amplifier, and it was like mid-class and silver parts and all of that. Just imagine how good that could be. And just imagine if you had like a DAC 4 or 5 from AudioNote on it, and I'm just thinking, wow, are we just losing a lot of the potential of headphones? Would be so cool. Well, yeah, it's funny how things like that work in the world. You would really think that a guy like me would work for a headphone company, but sadly I'm not smart enough to create what they're seeking, which is not optimal to getting our headphones to that high standard. So it kind of blows your mind, kind of blows your mind when you think about it. So yeah, I've experienced this sound, and I can tell you guys that that is how you crack the headphone sound. That is how you get into that deep area of really good headphones, where the headphones disappear. They're not on your head, and it's not linear, and all of these problems that they talk about the bass being boosted, or the treble, or the mid-range, and recessed here and there, and a bit of bump there in the middle. You just get a really good standard 50 to 100k type of sound, but for a fraction of the price. So why are we not doing this? Why are we not doing this? It's mind-boggling. But at least I cracked the code for you guys. So yeah, do whatever you want with the information. Try and make it work. Try and find a used 300B amplifier that you can turn into a headphone amplifier, or if it's already a headphone amplifier, that's a good start. And just like go with a really high ohm headphone. Give it a good cable, give it some good plugs, also have like a good source, like a good tube source. So if you can do like audio, that's of course like fantastically great. But yeah, that would be really cool if we all could experience that standard, and not the usual crap store standard, which is just like plastic flats, and like I just couldn't care about that sound. It's just plastic. But yeah, that's the solution if you want to do it like the pros do it. That's me logging out. Bye.